welcome to the podcast. This week we've got Adam Pennin. Adam, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on, Dom.
No worries. Right, so we're at your local club, Lake. We won't mention it, but how are you getting on? Much action?
This session, no. The lake went really hard about... last week was my first blank. Been nicking the odd one every sort of trip up here, sort of through the late spring, but it's definitely got harder now. There's a few big blooms of Daphnia going on that the fish are feeding in, and they've got very flighty as well. So even if you plop a small lead near them, they react adversely.
Yeah.
The fishing's got a little bit more testing in recent times, because obviously with the weed being up, you need to be able to flick a lead around a bit. This particular lake doesn't get fish very much, so although you can, it's on a ticket that anyone can fish, it doesn't get fished an awful lot, which means that the fish are not used to dealing with myriad marker floats and spoms and that whole encumbrance of noise. So they're a little bit flighty, so I've just reverted back to fishing with the catapult, feeling for a drop, and it's been getting me a few fish, some good ones as well. So it's been good fun, but it's hard at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's that time. Yeah, I suppose is what you're saying with them being a bit cautious. The water's warmer, their metabolism's going, so they're more alert as well, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah.
Eyesight's back to what it is and everything else.
Yeah.
Getting a bit of a hassle from the coots as well, aren't you?
Yeah, luckily, the water is a bit murky up here at the moment. There's a big algae bloom and there's the Daphnia, but they're still managing to find the baits. The problem is, through the sort of so I've been fishing at this lake since the beginning of May, so I've done about a month and a half, nearly 2 months, and I've definitely found that light baiting has been the key. So the problem is, obviously, when you do that and you've got 21 baits, is usually a number I go with, because it's just like a multiple of 7, it's a lucky number, but 21 baits and a rig, when the coots do come over you, it's very, very frustrating, because it doesn't take much time for them to cause you problems. So it's just another challenge you have to deal with.
And I suppose the last thing you want to be doing is rechucking if they're very on edge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, so let's talk about your role with ProLogic. What is your job role? What do you do? How long have you been there?
It's not a job role in employment terms like I used to have, obviously, where I've been, where I've been head of product development for various companies and actually employed on a day-to-day basis in the office, 12, 14 hours a day sometimes, designing products. This is a different sort of arrangement where I'm not involved day to day on product. They've got a couple of guys that do product at a very high level, and I'm employed on a consultancy sort of basis, which allows me to do my fishing. And a lot of people don't know the company. They're they're massive in Europe.
Yeah.
Owned by a company called Svensson Sport, which is a Danish company.
Right.
And in Europe, they're as big as any other player. Not quite as big in the UK, or nowhere near as big in the UK, but that's something which is being addressed, and there's a lot of good, new, exciting stuff coming through. The new guy, Rick Johnson, who's doing product development for the company now, is a very, very good, talented, English-based angler, and he's got an eye for what people like and what people need, whereas in the past, the product development has been done with a European slant.
Right.
And although a lot of it's been good gear, as you will appreciate, you can design gear with an English flair and sell it into Europe, but you can't do it the other way around. English anglers just won't buy stuff that looks European. Right. So how it's gone, with matte black this and everything, and wooden handles and low key graphic and everything, and a lot of the European stuff is the opposite end of the spectrum to that. So hopefully with more of an on trend design with a UK base element to it, it will change things up a lot for the company. I certainly think it will. So,
right. So that's their next big thing, is it? Getting into
focusing on the UK market a bit more. They've had a lot of growth in the UK over the last few years, but they just want to capitalise on that.
Right. And what sort of product ranges are we talking? Is it everything? From
It is, Dom,
shelters to right down to end tackle.
Everything, yeah. It's one of those all-encompassing brands. So
Right.
they've got got a partnership with Akuma, so you've got access to very, very good reels indeed. Anyone who's had Akuma reels over the years will know just how good they are. I hadn't used them until about 4 or 5 years ago when I came on board, and you know they're as good as many of my Daiwas, which
Right.
is quite a thing to say. You know, I mean, I've
Yeah.
been a Daiwa man since 1985 and been to the Daiwa factory in Japan. But when you actually have a look at an Akuma and realise how good they are, they're very, very good reels for the money indeed.
Interesting. So are they, when that all comes over, will they be staying as Akuma or will they be rebranded?
No, they're staying as Akuma.
Right.
And ProLogic will distribute them.
Right.
But we get to design reels for our own taste and styles, and
Yeah.
and Akuma will
And do you
manufacture
know
them.
sort of timelines? I mean, when are they looking to?
Well, there's a lot of new. I mean, some of the new reels coming through now, like the Inception and the 8K. They've all had big input from UK taste anglers, and you know they're really good reels. So, yeah, it's starting to come through as we speak. Different types of brolly and bivvy, and some amazing rods which I'm using now, which I'm really, really impressed by.
Yeah.
So yeah, things are going in the right direction.
I'd imagine it's quite a rigorous process as well when you start bringing new kit to market.
Yeah,
'Cause with the likes of social media, if you get something wrong,
absolutely.
everyone's going to know about it pretty quickly, aren't they?
And that's something that a lot of the big companies have struggled with over the years. Is they want to sell something obviously as quickly as possible from a company point of view, but from a product designer's point of view and from an angler's point of view, that's not the best thing. So it's striking that balance, and things have changed more recently again with the timeline of the design process. So they're taking a lot longer to get tested and filtered through now, which is how they should be. So
Yeah,
it's really good.
Brilliant. So, do you get involved very early on, or will they have, say, let's talk about the rods as an example? Are you sort of there at the beginning, or do they say, do you sort of sway?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the guy Rick Johnson, the guy I mentioned, he's done the new range of Inspire rods, and he knows exactly what he wants from a rod. And Rick is very much a caster. He loves fishing at range. He's very good at that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm really, I get a nosebleed if it's over 80 yards. So, so one of the models that he gave me to test, I said that it's just a bit too pokey for my kind of fishing. So we tweaked it and changed it and came up with a blank that we're really, really happy with, that will still cast a long way but is more forgiving at close range. And that's going to be a signature rod that I'm actually going to put my name to next year. That's the
Right.
one I'm using now, and it's it's a bit special.
Nice. So, sort of moving on from there, if we talk a bit about your own fishing, obviously you're reasonably new on this lake. How do you go about it? Are you one lake at a time, or will you sort of flip between a few that look right?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, I've always been a one lake at a time man, because I think it's probably more prudent and pragmatic to focus your attention on one place at a time and try and work it out, understand its moods. And if you're flitting about all over the place, that's difficult to do.
Yeah.
Having said that, I do carry a few different tickets, because with the nature of carp fishing being as it is these days, sometimes you might not be able to get on the fish. Sometimes the lake might be out of sorts. Sometimes they might even be spawning. So I think having backup alternative options is important.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, generally I try and focus on one at a time.
Right. So,
What about you? Are you similar?
yeah. I'd rather just go for the one.
Put all your effort into that.
Yeah, because if you flit, it's exactly the same as that. It's all about sort of being in tune with it, isn't it? I think?
Definitely.
Knowing, because you'll know, once you're sort of in tune with it, you can turn up and have a good idea where those fish are going to be.
Yeah.
On those conditions only, you'll be 70% sure. I mean, I know they say not to have any preconceived ideas, but when you start to suss it out,
You get a feeling in advance,
you'll
don't
know.
you?
Yeah.
And that makes it more viable for shorter sessions, and with the
Yeah.
constraints of modern life, that's what often we're faced
Yeah,
with, isn't
absolutely. Yeah, you want to know that you can just flick through like you've done, flick a few out, and being with the chance of a shout,
Yeah,
a little bit of bait.
yeah.
So, are there target fishing here you're after? Are you sort of after them and then moving on?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fishing a fair bit at St Ives the last few years.
Right.
Last couple of years, this year and last year.
Yeah.
And that's not too far away, so I'm going to go back there very soon.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, up in the Fens where we are now, there's a lot of different types of fishing. Not different types, there's a lot of fairly unpressured water. Certainly on the St Ives ticket, which is a remarkable value for money ticket with what you've got there. The angler footfall is generally quite quiet, especially at this time of year. That's a really big fish, just put his head out. That was a massive carp.
Oh, yeah.
See how small the ripple is?
Yeah,
Past
yeah.
that bird.
Yeah.
That had a head like a Labrador. That was a massive fish.
It's the first one we've seen since I've been
Yeah.
there. Promising.
Yeah, it does look promising. And yeah, so I'm going to do a few more trips here. But like I say, it is very, very tough at the moment. But I would like to try and figure it out. But
Yeah.
St Ives is beckoning. You know, I feel like
Yeah.
I need to be back up there. I love it up there.
Yeah.
Have you been up there?
No, I haven't. Sort of
You
draws
love
you
it.
towards it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very. You know, it's. I know you like you sort of from the Cotswolds and
Yeah.
you fish in Oxford, so you like those clear weedy pits and
Yeah.
they're in abundance on the
Yeah.
St Ives tickets,
Brilliant.
which are dark, scaly ones and.
Lovely. Yeah, I did. I mean, I've only seen about it in social media and read about it from different people and, you know, seen the videos, but it's got that same sort of feel. You
Yeah.
can see that.
Definitely.
Yeah, proper fishing.
The only downside to it is that the mosquitoes are bigger than sparrows. I've never seen anything like it. It's like the worst I'd ever fished was in Quebec when I went out with Kev Green to do some filming a long time ago.
Right.
And St Ives is nearly as bad as that. I
Right.
don't know what it is,
Yeah.
and they love me. So this year
Yeah.
I've been interested to know what the people listening think of it, because this year I get absolutely annihilated by them. But this
Yeah.
year I've been taking a very concentrated dose of vitamin B1
Right.
with a high amount of thiamine in it.
Okay.
Apparently, when you take you're literally taking an overdose of B1B. So
Right.
the surplus of vitamin requirement is passed through as urine.
Yeah.
Or it's in your urine, I should say, not as urine. So,
Yeah.
so it doesn't do you any harm. Your body takes what
Yeah.
it needs. But that slight overdose of thiamine apparently is excreted through your pores, and mosquitoes really don't like it.
Okay.
You might already know this. So I'm trying it, and I don't know whether I've just been lucky this year, but
Yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
seems pretty good.
That's funny you say that. I mean, years ago, I never used to get a touch fishing the Cotswold waters, and then it's almost like someone flicked a switch,
Yeah.
and I would just get mullered. Last year, it was horrendous. It looked like I had some sort of ailment. It
Covered
over
in
my
lumps.
face.
Oh no.
Because I didn't have a mozzie mesh over it. Oh, it was awful. I think I said on one before I had to go and get an old carp sack out of the van and use that just to cover my
Dom,
face.
that is savage.
But I was honestly,
man.
I must have had. It was several hundred.
Oh,
Anything that
that's
was exposed.
hospitalisation.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. My hands were just swollen. My face, it was awful.
The amount of
so-
anticoagulant that they injected into you
Yeah.
during that must have
Probably,
really messed
yeah.
you up.
Yeah,
That's
so,
dangerous, man.
But it's weird how they just seem to come in, whether they're season in terms of like yearly, whether they're worse, what it is that causes it to be sort of, you know.
Well, sometimes climactic conditions can make a difference, and but sometimes, as adults, you know, how old are you?
I'll be 40 next year.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, I'm about 10 years older than you. But as you get into your 40s, or certainly even as you're going into your 30s, your physiology
Yeah.
is changing. You'll find that your taste buds will change.
Yeah.
Certainly something that's happening with me, and I certainly found I've got a lot of fat. But you certainly, I think, as your physiology changes or your chemistry changes, that might take you, because you can develop allergies that you never
Yeah.
had in your life.
Yeah.
So things are going on with your body all the time, and it may be that your physiology and your chemistry has changed, and now you're more attractive. You're giving off something
Yeah.
that you never used to give off. Maybe, well, now I'm giving off the thiamine. It seems to be working.
Yeah.
So,
I'll hang around
yeah,
by
if
you
you,
then.
yeah,
But obviously, with this weather, we've gone from being quite warm, hasn't it, today, to
yeah.
cloudy, muggy, and close. It almost feels like as soon as that rains,
Yeah.
they're going to be here,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
It's got it written all over it.
It has, mate. Yeah, it's humid, very humid. They're
Yeah.
forecasting thunderstorms tonight.
Yeah, you can feel it. Can't
Yeah.
you? Needs a
Yeah.
good one to clear the air. So, how many nights have you? Is this your first night on it today?
Yeah, so I fished last night.
Right.
It was so I got here. It wasn't ideal really, but I got here. I always like you would. I always try and get to the lake at first light if I can.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't possible yesterday. I had to write a feature for Total Carp in the morning.
Right.
I had a load of books to post, and by the time I'd done everything else, I got up here about 2 in the afternoon, which is probably the worst time to arrive at a lake.
Yeah.
And hence, I didn't actually find and get on the fish until it was getting dark. So I didn't get any gear. I refused to set up just for the sake of fishing.
Yeah.
So I spent from 2 p.m. until 9 p.m. until I found them. Then I had to get my gear round to where they were, which was a bit of a mission.
Yeah.
Then I had to get fish in a swim I hadn't fished before, and it was a bit weedy, so
Yeah.
it was all a bit challenging.
Yeah.
But at least, I haven't caught one during the night, but I've been on them, and they're
Yeah.
about now, and I'm definitely in the right place. But
Yeah.
I could easily have set up in the wrong place and not been on them, and I could easily have caught one at first light this morning. That's when when you get the payoff.
Yeah.
You just got to. It's all about being in the right spot, as you know.
Yeah. Are they pretty catchable in general on here, would you say?
They have been
Ricky?
up until a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, this particular lake, there, it's very, very interesting. It's well, I say, even though it's sort of accessible for people, it's hasn't been overfished over the years. So the fish have got sort of like scarred up old bodies
Right.
with withered little fins and stock pond mouths.
Yeah.
It's the most fantastic combination. It's just remarkable. You look at it's amazing, Dom, honestly. It's like you look in their mouths and you think they've come out of a fish tank,
Yeah.
and you look at their bodies and they look as old as the hills, and that is just the most magic thing. So, yeah, that's really giving me a buzz at the moment.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Character fish.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Total Carp. Do you still do much writing? Obviously, we'll come on to the book in a minute, but do you do much writing for mags?
Yeah, I do, Dom. I do every month. I do Total Carp.
Right.
Every month I do Carpology. Every month I do Angling Times in their carp feed supplement.
Right.
I'm sure I do a couple of other things as well.
How much time does that take up? Do you do that at home, or will you do bits on the bank?
I
Or?
always do it at home.
Right.
I have tried to do it on the bank, but
Yeah.
I feel
You're looking down then, aren't you? You're not looking
exactly.
At them. Yeah.
I cannot bear
Yeah.
to not. I mean, I know in this situation I'm tucked behind trees for a couple of reasons, but it pains me not being able to look at the lake. And maybe in the winter when it's a dark evening and you're just using your ears, you can tap away.
Yeah.
But even then, I've had times where you're tapping away and on screen, and you'll hear a fish. You put the laptop to one side and you go out of the bivvy,
Yeah.
and your night vision's screwed because you're looking
Yeah.
and you can't.
Yeah.
By the time your eyes adjust, it's gone. So
which that could give the whole game away.
exactly
But,
that one
could be
show.
your winter session.
Exactly, it could be
Yeah.
a whole winter season. So
Yeah.
I try and do it at home, but I'm very fortunate in so far that I find it very easy. I can do several thousand words in an hour.
Right.
Which is just one of the very few talents that I've got that I can do that.
And what's
so.
that come from? Obviously, being years of experience being on the bank, or have you just always had that knack?
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with being on the bank. I've just always had an aptitude for writing, I suppose.
Right.
Not in so far as saying my writing's good, but had a knack for being able to do it. Whereas some people, good mates of mine, they've had to write an article and it would literally take them days to do 3,000 words because
Yeah.
the words don't come easy. So
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that the words do come easy.
Yeah.
I almost have sort of verbal diarrhea through the keyboard sometimes,
Right. Yeah.
and that for me is a real blessing, because if it was hard,
Yeah.
then my life would be hard.
Yeah.
But I can do it quickly. So
And how does that work? Do the magazine say we need you to cover this, this, and this, or is it the other way around? Do they just say, Adam,
a
give
mixture.
us a piece?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's a mixture of the three, really. So, Carpology is diary based, and that's been going for nearly 3 years actually since I moved over there from Advanced Carp. When Advanced Carp went under, I did my diary in there for about 6 years before that.
Right.
In fact, I've had a constant presence in the magazine since 1999, every month in something, and I think I'm right in saying that I've written in every single one, from Crafty Carper to Carp Catcher to Big Carp to Carp World, all of them I think at some point. But with the total one is so the Carpology one is diary based, which is easy because you just talk about what you've been doing. Easy. That's the easiest one to write. Whereas Total Carp, they will invariably nominate a subject they want me to cover. So that's slightly more difficult, but still quite easy. And the Angling Times one, Steve sends me selections of questions that readers send in every month, and I get 3 or 4 of those, and I answer those. So 3 different broad contexts of writing, but they're all quite simple really.
So I suppose from the diary one and the question one, it's always fresh content, isn't it?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Do you take notes of your session for your diary one?
Yeah. So I'm a fastidious diary keeper.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't think so. It looks blank. It's upside down.
That's right. Not the Japanese one, is it?
So so I just keep my diary. I write in it sometimes every few hours, but little and often, because I don't want to miss anything. So a lot of it's done after dark, but I put the time, the date, the swim, and then obviously anything that's, sometimes the things are going wrong, as you can see by the blue language.
Yeah, swear words, lovely.
So you get all of the whole emotion and everything that goes with it, and then something major happens, you keep the hook from the fish, you're just writing, and you can see how things are coming together, and then something happens that is so, and then you write it while you're on the bank, and
to capture that.
Capture that moment, because it's sometimes when you write about the a capture downstream,
you lose a bit.
So for me, it's really important to try and get it. Not just because I think that, or I hope that at some point this might go into another book, but because when you do read back over this stuff, it's like, wow, I'm really glad I wrote that.
Yeah, and you relive it. You can relive it. I can see that. That's brilliant. So
do you do that?
No, I haven't. I do. I take notes on my phone.
Right.
But I'm terrible for that.
Right.
I tend to use something like Evernote, so I've got like different aspects of life.
Okay.
It's quite a good app. So I can
What's it called?
Evernote.
Evernote, right.
And it's so it syncs to your laptop, your phone, so you can even different devices. Say if you had an Apple iPhone and just a standard laptop, you don't have to be on the same system, and it'll sync to each one.
Right.
So you can sort of start typing on your laptop and then pick it up the next day from your phone, carrying out to it. So
nice.
That's quite handy for that. So I use it for that. But
I'll have a look at that.
I've like I say, on that last fishing session I did, I thought I'd do like a little video log just with the phone.
Yeah.
So I didn't want something. I was mindful that I didn't want something that's going to take a lot of heavy editing.
Yeah.
It was just to do it, upload it, and off you go. So I'm going to do more of those. I think it's really important doing it.
Yeah.
Capturing the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find it quite easy doing those video
Yeah,
logs?
it's a bit strange at first, but obviously from doing this, I quite enjoy it. To be honest, it's just not trying too hard.
Yeah.
Just being honest. I think.
So important.
Yeah,
so
it's
important.
the key. I mean, I speak to various people, obviously customers from the heating business, and it's just.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're just going. You go. We just heard one roll, so I'm just going to sneak round the corner and see what it is, whether it's a duck or a fish. We've not had too much to go on at the minute. Is it a fish?
There's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Ripples through the trees.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've just that's a really good fish, very close to the middle rod.
Yeah.
Moved a lot of water. Yeah, definitely in the right spot.
Are there bite times on here? Have you found?
Interestingly,
changing season. If you've not been on it that long.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. As the seasons change, the bite times change. For the last, so I fished all of May and then up till now, and I've only had one fish in the dark.
Right.
Evenings have been good. Yeah, generally like any time once it's light. Really weird actually, but
I suppose now we're approaching the longest day, aren't we? As well. A few days away. Is it Friday?
So depressing, Don. Why did you remind me of that? After Friday, it starts getting darker again.
That's the kind of thing my dad would say.
I always find that
glass is always half full, or I should say half empty with him.
I always text my best mate Mark on December the 21st, in the
Yeah.
bleak midwinter. It's a
Yeah.
joyous moment that
Yeah.
after that it gets lighter, whereas the 21st of June is a bit more depressing. But it's like you've just got to summer.
Yeah.
And now, see you later, it's all going to
Yeah,
get
but I
dark.
think this time last year it was absolutely glorious, wasn't it?
It was roasting, wasn't it?
late and hot World Cup.
Oh, yeah. That was hot, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, we've had sort of a little hint of it earlier on, didn't we? Weeks ago.
It'll be back.
Yeah.
It'll be back.
Hopefully.
Once these storms clear, I bet by next week and the week after, it's going to go hot. It
Yeah.
always does.
Hopefully we've got a family holiday at the end of July. So
Oh, nice. Where are you going?
Just down to Studland and Dorset.
Lovely. Dorset's beautiful.
Yeah, stunning part of the world, isn't it? Right, so let's talk a bit about your book. Obviously, how's that going? It looks like
It's
going down quite well, isn't it?
it is, thanks, Dom. Yeah, it's I sold what I thought I would sell in a year in a couple of months, which
Wow.
was remarkable because it's the book market isn't what it used to be.
It's a bit niche now, isn't
It's
it?
very niche, yeah. So it's almost like only eccentrics buy books now. But so yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, people probably think, oh, there's like huge numbers of books being sold by people, but I can tell you it's not the case. Most people don't have the time or the inclination to read books anymore.
Yeah.
They want to listen to a podcast when they're
Yeah.
driving or
Yeah.
go on Facebook or something. And the time that people spend actually sat down reading
Yeah.
now in 2019 compared to even 10 years ago is vastly diminished.
Yeah.
People's attention spans is reduced.
That's it, and there's always a distraction, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but bearing that in mind, I've been very, very pleased with it. The publisher has as well, and it's been a really. I still can't believe it. I was like wrapping
Yeah.
them up on the kitchen table
Yeah,
because
saw
I
the-
send them out.
Yeah. That must be a nice feeling.
It is, and it's like I
Yeah.
still have this sort of. It's like you're on like. It's like an out of body experience
It's
almost.
not
Like
you.
it's like
Why would
I'm
someone want to listen to?
Yeah, I
yeah.
can't, and I feel really grateful and humbled that people are contacting me almost on an everyday basis, asking for the book, and
Yeah.
and I'll wrap up maybe 10 of them on the kitchen table,
Yeah.
and which is quite a mission to go to the post
Yeah.
office because that's 10 books is 25 kilos.
It's a workout then.
It's a proper
Olympic plate, isn't it?
Yeah, I nearly crashed my bike the other day with one bag on the handlebars. But it's but sometimes I'll be halfway through wrapping them, and I'll just stop for a minute and I'll just flick the book open and flick through the pages and think, wow, did I really do this? I actually got it done, and it, because it took sort of 10 years on and off to write.
Right.
Now when I see it and I look at it and sometimes I'll just sit and I'll flick through it and an hour will go or something, and
Yeah.
I mean I've obviously proofread it and everything,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's something that I'm very, very proud of. I think I'm really humbled by the acclaim. The feedback has been unanimously very positive, which has been hugely flattering, and I think I'm proud of it because it achieved what I wanted it to do in terms of being completely different.
Yeah.
So even if you read the book and for whatever reason you didn't like it, I would defy anyone to read it and say it wasn't completely different from everything they've ever seen or
Right.
read. So there's a few things that I did to mix it up. I mean, just visually, aesthetically, all of the paper is black.
Right.
I had this idea. I woke up in the middle. When you're doing a creative process, as you'll probably know, you get these light bulb moments, and
Yeah.
sometimes they come at 3 a.m.
Yeah, or in the shower when
Yeah,
you can't
that's
write
it.
it down. Yeah.
And I had this thing came to me at 2 in the morning. Sorry, and I thought, why are all carp fishing books white paper with black ink? And I thought, I wonder if it'd be mad to reverse that completely. And the next morning, I rang up Paul, my good mate, the designer at M-Press, and I said, look, can we just try this? And I thought, probably because no one's done it, it's probably because people tried it and they thought it looked rubbish. So I was prepared for it to look rubbish, but we did it, and wow, it just gave visually a whole new dimension to the book and made the pictures really stand out well. And then other things like having no chronology in the book whatsoever. really sets it apart.
Yeah.
And it's full of my handwritten diaries.
Right.
So no one had ever done that before for a book. Chris Yates had done a similar thing a long time ago with a different type of book, but and I'm certainly nowhere near his level of writing ability. But the diary element is, when you read a book, you're always reading it retrospectively, aren't you?
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
frog. He'll jump, and if you touch his back end, he'll jump really fast. People listening will wonder what we're talking about. It's not a little boy in our swim. Dom's on the register. When you're reading a story or telling a story, it's always retrospective, isn't it? The tense, it's in the past tense. But using the diary element allows you to take the reader into the moment of that raw emotion of anything, between a swan going through your line or when you catch the fish of your dreams. And it's there, so you sort of do. I did that in a different font, so the left-hand page will be just past tense, telling a story in a fashion, and then it will drift into the right-hand page, and it'll have the date, the time, and it will just change to a handwritten font. So you actually drift into the moment,
Right.
and it gives a whole other
brilliant.
dimension. So people have liked it anyway. I won't waffle on about it, but I don't even like the sound of my own voice. So I don't know why I'm doing this, but yeah, it's been positively received. So
Brilliant.
thanks to everybody who's sent me messages about it, and I've had a lot of messages from you guys, an awful lot, saying that you were in tears with one of the chapters, and you felt what I was going through.
Oh wow.
And you know, I even had Keith Jenkins ring me up in tears, and Dave Lane as well, two people that I have in massive regard. So the fact that it reached you guys on that level and you took the time to tell me meant a great deal. So if you sent me a message, or if you just enjoyed the book and you got the book, then massive thanks to all of you.
That's brilliant, really brilliant to hear. And where can people, if they want to buy the book, they haven't got it yet, how do they go about that? Can they just contact you on social media, or if you've got a page set up for it? Or?
Yeah, so thanks, Dom. Yeah, I didn't even see I don't plug or try to do anything, so I appreciate that.
No, it's fine.
So if you would like a copy, you can contact me on Facebook, message me. I've got 2 Facebook pages, Adam Penning Carp Angler.
I know your sort. 2 Facebook pages, eh? 2 phones.
Yeah, Penning the dealer. I'm only a book dealer. And then you can find me on Instagram, message me on there. I sell a lot of books for Instagram.
Right.
I'm on Twitter, you can find me on there. Or if you don't want to deal with me, I mean, if you deal with me, I can post you a signed copy with a message, or for a partner or a loved one. If you don't want to do that, and you can order them direct from M Press Limited.
Right, brilliant. Obviously, we
Sorry,
spoke...
Dom. Calm Productions. Calmproductions.com, which is part of M Press.
Got you. Okay. We mentioned a bit about, obviously, you doing the diary piece. Did you ever think about doing an audio version of the book? Or would you? On Audible? You said, obviously, nobody's got time to read books.
Yes, with it, I wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it will cause any problems if I say yes. And at some point, I mean, as far as I know, no one. I shouldn't really. Well, look, if anyone copies the idea, then so be it. But as far as I know, I don't think an author is out there, certainly in carp fishing, reading their own book.
Right.
So I am going to go in a recording studio.
Good.
And record the book for people. You know, I've had a lot of people contact me that either can't or won't read.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they like the idea of, well, obviously podcasts are massively
you think
successful.
In the car, jogging, anything, even work, depending on what your work is, you can listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Audible. I've learned so much. Obviously, I love reading, but it's a time constraint. If you haven't physically got that time, Audible.
With this, you can be doing something multitasking.
Yeah.
I think
brilliant.
from what I've heard, I mean, podcasts are where it's at now, you know, and until very recently, I didn't even know what one was because I'm a bit of a cyberphobe, and but it turns out, everyone's listening to podcasts these days, and you can get a podcast by just about anyone, whether it's a famous footballer or a comedian. Everyone does them, don't they?
Yeah. I think old Peter Crouch has got a really successful one, hasn't he?
Has he?
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's quite a funny bloke. I think he's very light-hearted and takes in the cat himself.
That's good.
Well, I think that'd be Audible and audio, and I think with you doing it, or at least you doing the diary section in your voice,
right? Yeah.
it'd bang on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's something I'm gonna. have a go. When you just said about Peter Crouch, I mean, it's
Yeah.
very important not to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, of course.
And especially with carp fishing, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot, you know, if you're good at catching carp, then it doesn't make you anything special. We're just lucky to do what we do, and we should enjoy it. And not taking yourself seriously is very important. In fact, earlier when I was really little, I found out that there was a very fine line between self-deprecation and self-defecation. That was something that got me in trouble at school, but there you go.
Yeah. Okay, I won't ask about that. Is that over your spot now?
Yeah.
Is that a duck? Or
Yeah,
is
there's a carp just come around that corner.
that... So you
I'm
are in the
spotted,
right
mate.
area.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the right spot. Yeah, the fish has just moved across the area, on just under the surface.
So we due a big pressure drop when this thunderstorm comes in. Is it good? We're gonna have a...
And a little bit of a slick coming up from those oily boilies. I would imagine inevitably we've got it was full moon last night or the night
Right.
before. The pressure, I haven't actually looked how much it's going to drop, but it will drop.
Yeah, you can always feel it like a
Yeah.
headache. You always get like a headache.
Massively.
It's
yeah.
funny, isn't it? How deep is that spot off that point that you're fishing?
5.5 foot.
Right,
And it's just a little gravel shelf.
right.
And I only found it this morning. It looks like a really obvious place to find a clear spot, but I flicked a lead around a lot and didn't find anything. Just a 1 ounce lead on, nice and subtle. And then after about 25 minutes, I found there's a tiny little spot, but it is clear pea shingle surrounded by filth and weed
Right.
on the shoulder of an island. Looks prime.
Yeah,
See, she's coming round now. Listen to her.
yeah.
She just,
Kicking
if
off
you
a
guys
bit.
are listening, you might have just picked that up. The coots have been really giving away the activities of the carp. You know, she's didn't come round that corner and start giving an alarm call for no reason. She can see things that we can't.
Yeah, being right over the top, especially in that sort of shallow water
Yeah,
as well.
big
yeah.
grey submarines coming through.
Yeah. How many nights are you doing? I didn't think we've said that. Are you...
2 nights.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
you've got tonight to do as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So I try and fish a couple of nights a week.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot, and I suppose it is a lot, but it's the same as I've always fished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from being a teenager through my 20s, I always used to fish Friday night, Saturday night, go home
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And now my nights are usually a Sunday night, Monday night, maybe a Monday night and Tuesday night. So I've got that advantage of being able to fish when it's a little bit quieter. But
Yeah.
and sometimes, you know, if work permitting, I can pull an extra night out if it's looking
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, after 2 nights, not only am I ready to go home, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But I really miss my family and my little boy. So 2
Yeah.
nights away is generally
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. Have you taken river fishing yet?
yeah,
that
we haven't been carp fishing yet.
Yeah.
He's been down to visit me while I've been carp fishing.
Right.
And he loves the whole bivvy setup and
Yeah.
getting in the sleeping bag and everything. But no, we did our first fishing trip about 2 weeks ago, and we went out with a 3 metre whip and a float.
Yeah.
And caught about 60 or 70 roach and rudd
Yeah.
and perch,
Yeah.
which he absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a bit more of that.
Yeah. It's just moving them through, isn't it? Because you don't want to
100%.
take them straight onto carp and
No,
sit there going
no.
motionless.
No,
Rods.
I wouldn't hold his attention, and I
Yeah.
want him to sort of, you know, when you're float fishing on the whip, you know,
Yeah.
every now and again, one. I mean, next time we go, something come through that's maybe 1.5 pounds, and,
Yeah.
and it comes off in the reeds, and
Yeah.
that's where angling imagination is based,
Yeah,
isn't it? Which
yeah.
leads you eventually into carp fishing because
Yeah.
they're the ones you can't
They
stop.
can't believe how much that pulls. Even
Exactly,
a pound and a half
exactly.
roach or perch.
The
it's like,
elastic's
whoa,
out and-
yeah, yeah, like, whoa, Dad. Yeah. And
Have you got kids,
that
mate?
moment, yeah, 2 boys. So yeah,
How
we're
old are
2
they?
step boys. And so Jacob's 13, Sam's 10.
Nice.
Yeah, but same thing there. I took them fishing a couple of years ago for the first time,
Yeah.
and it was hectic to say the least. I thought I'd take my kit as well, just like a local place. We went, got them some float rods.
Good man.
Phew, and it was full on. Their mum came down sort of halfway through the day. Said, "You look a bit stressed." But it was like, "Go on, can you untangle this? Dom, I'm in the tree. I've got one. Come on, hook this." It was full on.
After that, you're mashed, aren't
I
you?
didn't get any of my kit out. I just didn't get a chance. It was relentless. Sammy even had one on. We sort of he put the rod down. We had some lunch. We didn't have any bait on. There's that many roach in there. He managed to just took the hook. Obviously, saw it must have glinted in the sun. It just took an
bare
unbaited hook. Yeah, it was full on. So we've done that. Then I took Jacob down to just go for the carp. We just took like a little stalking rod set up on a little method feeder.
Nice.
And he caught quite a few, and quite a nice chub. There's a chub in there, actually, probably about
Okay.
£3.
Right, and he caught that as well.
Yeah, so that's him well into the carp fishing. So they've
Brilliant.
got their own little like Nash Dwarf set up now.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, so again, their own little alarms.
Brilliant.
Which is obviously perfect because it all breaks down next
Yeah,
to
of
nothing.
course.
So it can stay in the van all times.
I bet the school holidays can't come round quick
Yeah,
enough for 'em.
so we're obviously spoiled with where we are in the Cotswolds. We've got
Yeah.
taken to Welford Pools.
Oh,
quite a
nice.
bit. Obviously, that's all.
Does Jerry's
up and
family
running
still
now.
run that? Or has they got sold?
yeah, obviously Jerry passed away.
Yeah. So
a guy
Ros
called-
sold it,
well,
did she?
Steve runs it, who owns Bramblemere now.
Okay. Yeah.
He bought it, so yeah, they've restocked it all. They've redone what was the Specimen Lake,
Right.
the Syndicate Lake. That's just been restocked,
Right.
and they've got a little pool at the back called Barley Pool, which is like exclusive hire, and they've got like a big shed that you can stay in. So they took the boys
Nice.
out, and yeah, perfect.
Nice.
Little TV for if they get bored.
Yeah.
That
I used
band.
to love going down there.
Yeah, that's-
Jerry was an absolute gentleman.
Yeah, that was where I did my very first night.
Was
I
it?
remember with a little blue Euro hike tent.
Oh, right.
In the middle of October, me and my dad went. I slept on the floor, no bed chair, hot water bottle. I think I had one out for carp and one out for pike. I don't think there's any pike in there. But yeah, I always remember that.
Your
That-
pike dead bait probably got eaten by crayfish
Yeah.
back then. There was
Yeah.
loads in there.
Yeah, that was my very first night fishing trip.
Brilliant. Good
Um,
memories.
yeah.
So your dad took you?
Yeah, he's never into fishing. I think my brother got into it. I don't know how. He was the only family members that got into it.
Right.
But he never got into the night fishing side of things. But I was really keen. Sort of got into the piking. Used to fish Milestone,
Yeah.
behind there, the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
lake there.
Yeah.
I had I think it was 22.5 or 23 pound pike when I was about 13.
That's massive.
Yeah, it
it's
popped
proper
up, and I was like, "What the?"
Yeah.
Like a crocodile. Yeah, I was
yeah.
like, "Whoa!" I remember getting it in the net, and it was sort of like that curved over, just
Wow.
about in.
That's a
Yeah.
serious fish.
Yeah, and I
Even
had
now.
19 as well.
Did you?
Yeah, in the same session.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, just on like half a herring. Yeah, and that was that then. Specimens.
Yeah. Big
And then
fish
on in.
or bust, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously it's been carp fishing ever since, pretty much. With the odd, I take the boys spinning.
Right.
Obviously, we've got the Thames right by us as well. Kelm's got Lechlade, so
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
go
course. Yeah, the
spinning
upper
there.
Thames, yeah.
yeah. So again, spoiled for choice. Really, so lucky.
Very
When I
nice,
go to
mate.
some of the lakes round by me, and you hear people have driven for like 3.5, 4
Yeah.
hours to get there.
Yeah.
You know, I can whiz down and have a look. If it's busy, go home again.
That's what I was used to say about the Cotswolds. If you went up in a hot air balloon and looked down, there'd
Yeah.
be more water than grass.
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah,
know,
is it
it's-
something like 130 odd pits or something now?
Is that right?
Unbelievable. And I think they're still digging.
Are they?
Yeah.
Right.
Sort of on the edges, 'cause it stretches all the way out to Fairford, doesn't it?
Well, your boys are very lucky to live where they do and to
Yeah.
have a dad like you that takes them fishing, mate. Good effort.
it's,
Nice
yeah,
one.
I must take them more. Say, well, the weather's nice.
Yeah.
Sammy's a bit fair weather,
Right.
but Jacob will go whichever, and he
He's more hardcore,
can
isn't he?
sit there and just wait for the one biggie, only. But
Nice.
Sam's got the attention span of the younger boys you would have.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he's happy catching roach after roach.
Yeah.
Took him to Chad as well.
Chad, yeah, I
Yeah.
never went there.
Yeah. That is
Nice little complex.
Yeah, well run. Yeah, so spoiled for choice.
Yeah, it's a
Just,
good location. There, Oxford. I used to live in
Yeah.
Oxford, and you know that's
Yeah.
sort of part of the country. You've got, like you say, the rivers.
Yeah,
Where I live now in Essex, that's the one thing that you're missing really is really good quality river fishing. But
right.
yeah, Oxford and the Cotswolds, where you are, man, what a place to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiled, absolutely spoiled. I'll tell you, if we move on to a few questions
Questions, eh? Right.
from various
Did
people.
my mum
on
send
the-
one?
Is she on Instagram?
Yeah, she might be.
Let's
She's
have a
on
look.
Match.com.
Brilliant.
Oh
you
man,
get,
she's, dear.
Text, how do I do this? Do I swipe left on us? Must have been doing that. Right, here we go. The first one from someone called Nuji. And it's, would you rather catch a UK 60 or England win the World Cup? Different one.
Well, I mean, yeah, I do like the footy tournaments and everything, but I've never been particularly
Yeah.
football obsessed. And
Yeah, same.
yeah, I mean, a really big. I wouldn't even have to be a 60. I'd rather
Yeah.
catch a 30 tonight than England
Yeah.
win the World Cup. That's terrible. I'll probably get attacked next time. I
Yeah. No, honest answer. Right, let's have a look what other questions we've got. We've got a bit of a funny one from J Mungo Cater from.
Oh right, he's a good
Monkey.
lad.
Have you ever noticed how much you and Davey look alike? Dave Levy rather look alike.
Do you know that's a really funny one because I have noticed it and a few people have said about it to me and I noticed when I bumped into Dave when I was bringing my young lad out of rugby practice, rugby tots actually, because he's only 4. But Dave was in the car park and he was going in because his daughter, she runs, she does athletics at a very high level.
Yeah.
And Dave come through the car park and we saw each other and we're good mates and stopped, shook hands and said hello. And there was a couple of people looking at us like we were like identical twins. You could see like they were. But me and Dave do look alike. I wish I was as good at catching carp as he is, but he's a gentleman and so's Jay. So
yeah, brilliant. Gary AFC says, who inspired you? I assume he means we didn't say in fishing, but who inspired that? And that's what I was going to ask you, sort of, where did it start? How did you get into it?
I think life inspiration, a lot of it, I've always respected and had admiration for Muhammad Ali, just because he would fight anyone, anyhow, and he would find a way to beat much tougher, or maybe not tougher, but much more dangerous men than himself. Yeah. And I've always admired that sort of never give up attitude. And within fishing, certainly I've always been a real bookie, a real reader, and certainly, and I told Rob Malin recently, his early works were a huge, massive inspiration to me. I used to get, I can remember when I got Tiger Bay for Christmas in, I think, 1987. Right. And that was a huge part of, and Rod Hutchinson, Carp Strikes Back, definitely. Yeah. So those two angling writers, certainly through my beginnings in carp fishing, were a massive inspiration. And both of them, very different anglers, but both Rob and Rod showed that carp fishing should be a lot of fun. Yeah. They both like to drink. Yeah. They both like to laugh and a prank, and certainly I sort of took that on board very much, and probably lost a couple of tickets because of it. No, I've never lost a ticket.
Has that come close or not?
No, actually, I was thinking the other day, I've never been. I had to fill in an application. So, have you ever been refused membership of anywhere? And I hadn't. So I was
a very honest form, isn't it?
I'm just
How many people go? Yeah, I have actually. Yeah. No. Oh, brilliant. I think there's a couple more questions. What would stop you from going fishing? They say forever.
What would stop me? What would stop me going fishing forever? Not even fishing being made illegal would, it would just become underground. You'd still do it. I was thinking, if I got some terrible illness and lost my legs, I'd still do it. Yeah. What would stop me forever?
Nothing by the sounds of it.
Well, I'm sure there's probably. I suppose if by some terrible insidious virus got introduced to the fish, to the waterways of this country, and there were no fish, then I wouldn't go fishing. Yeah.
Nice answer. Yeah. So your book, how did that come about? Obviously you said you've got diary pieces. Was that always the aim, to write a book, or were you always doing your diary bits? And you had the content there and you thought, I'm going to turn this into a book? Which way?
Yeah, the latter. I thought I could. During the thing with writing a book, Dom, is that I'd always avoided doing it because I've spent huge amounts of my fishing life fishing lakes with hardly any fishing that were beyond my capability. So years and years, tens of years of my fishing life have been very, very fruitless. And so, although when I had a couple of people that I worked with that said, you've got a few stories to tell, you should write a book, I always thought, you know what? You look at the books that do come out and it seems like the authors are catching so many massive 40s and 50s. I thought, well, who's going to buy my book when I But then it slowly became apparent to me that if it's all about the fish, if you're capable of telling a story, which I hope I am, and you've got some interesting things to say, which I hope I have, then actually it doesn't matter what you've caught so much, because that's a lot better than maybe having caught loads of big fish and not be so good at telling a story. Unless you're Terry Earn and you can do both.
Yeah, it's a journey, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, And
which is a pretty decent metaphor for life, isn't it?
absolutely, definitely. And I think also you've got a slight advantage that if you haven't caught rakes and rakes of absolute units, then the everyman can empathise or identify with you a little more. So I think that my fishing's a bit more sort of based in real life. And although I've been lucky a few times, you know, I've never been a Terminator or, you know, I've never been a Darryl Peck or something like that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've had these huge fallow periods where I've, you know, fished lakes trying to catch like one carp that lived in there and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and literally eaten up years and years of my life. And I think, you know, if I'd spent those somewhere else, I would have caught a few more fish, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
have had the stories to tell.
Yeah.
So I think with the when I started putting the book together, it was just one of those creative, to answer your question, one of those creative ideas that came to me. I thought, actually, do you know what? I've got all these, because I was determined that if I did there's another racer going along there, he's not going to make it to the end of today. I thought, I'm only going to do a book if it can be significantly different to everything else that's gone before it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come up with at least half a dozen USPs that had never been done before. Everything from the black paper to the diaries and the chronology and various other elements that I intertwined with it.
Yeah.
And it was only when I came up with those ideas that I thought, actually, I can do this and do something that I can be proud of, and it's not just another carp book, which is so important to me.
Yeah. Is there another one?
Well, on the spine
On the
of this one,
pipeline?
as some people have noticed, it does say volume 1 on the spine.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind people have said to me, we want the next one, we've just read it, we want volume 2. But the reality is, guys, it took me 10 years to do
Yeah.
volume 1.
Yeah.
And there will be a volume 2.
Yeah.
I've no idea when. It will just happen.
There's almost got to be with a surname like Penning.
Do you know what? Yeah, I only realised that when I was writing it.
Is it nominative determinism? Is that the phrase?
Oh, I like
When
that.
you do, yeah, I'm trying to spell it.
Say that
When
again.
when your name is to do with either your occupation,
What's it called?
I think it's called nominative determinism.
That's brilliant.
I'll have to
I'm
Google
going to
it, but there's a few.
plagiarise
So,
that.
like, say if there was a chef called Roger Cook,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
There you go, mate. Look, I've
Yeah.
never heard that. I've learned
Yeah,
something
there you go.
today.
So
That's
you've
brilliant.
always got to keep writing.
Yeah.
Keep penning. I like the cover, by the way. Where did that idea come from?
Thank you very much. That was another one of the half a dozen or more USPs because,
Right.
and it was interesting because I tried to. The cover obviously is hugely important, and I just
Yeah.
could not think what to do with it.
Yeah. I buy
Even-
so many books, films by the cover.
People do.
Sold by instantly.
Absolutely.
Don't read it. Wow, that's like a great shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Draws you
It's
in.
so important. You only
Yeah.
have that one chance to make the first impression.
Yeah.
And the cover is, in some ways, is more important than what's inside
Yeah.
in terms of making a sale, definitely. And I just didn't know. It got to, bearing in mind it was going to print in October last year, 2018.
Right.
I was in the end of July and I still didn't know what I was putting on the cover. The book was finished,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to get pretty twitchy. And I thought, well, I've got a fly in my throat. Excuse me, just have a quick
That's right.
squeak. And I
Yeah.
thought, well,
Some sort of new diet.
yeah, high protein. Yeah, I need a few more of them. And I thought, well, what I'll probably do is go somewhere like to a massive waterway like Glen Faber or somewhere, and photograph a day with really ominous skies, with white tip waves coming in, because I thought that would reflect the title Rolling in the Deep, although that's a double meaning title. But and that was probably where I would have ended up. I wasn't going to have a sunset shot, and I definitely wasn't going to have a fat bloke holding fish shot, me with a carp, because screw that, man. I mean, you just try and be original. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And then one day, my wife, who's very, very clever and far more creative than I am, she said, have you ever heard of this style? I can't remember even what the technical word for it was that she told me, but we Googled it, and I hadn't. And she said, what about if you did your face? And I said, I'm not having my face on the front of a carp book, because it's just not how I'm not. It seemed too egotistical to me. And I said,
Yeah.
no. But then she said, but if it's populated with all the images of your life that make you who you are, and it resonated with me. And I thought, do you know what? She might be right. And I lived with the idea for a day or two, and then I got on the phone to Paul. Photo Mosaic it's called, and I said, Paul, have you ever laid out a photo mosaic before? And he hadn't, but he got the programme to do it. Richard Stewart and Dan Wildball kindly did me some headshots where I didn't look too ugly in a beanie hat, which was sort of like what I'm usually seen in. Paul created it from 500 images that I sent him of my family, my child, everyone in the family, and people I've known in my life, and certain fish shots that mean a lot. And because the book is probably about 65-70% about fishing, and the rest is about real life, things that you would be able to relate to, crazy cars, crazy girlfriends, crazy mother-in-laws, crazy jobs, so it's all stuff that whoever reads it can identify with, because it's just the life that we all lead. And so the cover reflects that. It's what makes you who you are. And I've got my wife Hills to thank for that, because I never would have thought of that, and no one in carp fishing had ever done anything like that, which again, as I keep saying, it was very important to me. And I'm really proud of it. I think I'm almost as proud of the cover as I am of what's inside.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, you can see how unique it is.
Thank you.
It does scream out, even if it's in amongst other books that not fishing related.
Right.
You just sort of gravitate to that because it's just different, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. That's what I wanted it to be.
But obviously now, with book number 2, you've now pushed that bar. And that's the thing.
I have actually started thinking
success.
about what to do with that, and I have got a couple of ideas which have never been done before, which will allow me to continue the theme of being artistically different. Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah.
Lovely. Right, so if they want, we'll just do a quick recap. So if people want to get the book, they can just grab hold of you anywhere on social media.
Yeah, I'm widely available on social media, or you can get it from Calm Productions, which is online. They stock various other books, like my mate Oz Holness. His book Forces of Nature is on there, and in fact Empress publish all the main books. They've done with mate Dave Lane's book Fine Lines. So it's a really good place to get any book, not just mine. So if it's Christmas, Father's Day, birthdays, or just you want a general read, check out Calm Productions, because there's a lot of great material on there.
Brilliant. I think we'll wrap up at that point. That's the hour mark. Adam Penning, thank you very much.
An hour.
Yeah,
Wow.
Look at that. Brilliant. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you for having me, Dom. Top man.